And I think Binance is involved in that. I think it's a way of taking money out of the Chinese system for the leadership and others, and also having control of the digital economy as it develops. And I think they know that.
In today's video, we have Raoul Pal of Real Vision, giving us his take on the latest developments of the FTX collapse and where he thinks the crypto market is headed. Is there still hope for crypto? That's what we're about to find out. But before we do, please consider subscribing to our channel, as we bring you daily content on the latest crypto news. And now, let's jump right into the video.
You would never do business with somebody of which you don't have any governance whatsoever, know who any of the investors are, know where any of the money is not regulated by anybody in any way, shape or form, and give them your money. Okay, it's kind of ludicrous. I actually am one stage thinking it's bigger than that, and that it's actually a state enterprise for China. And I think the crypto markets are being bifurcated into two trading zones, much like they want with the currency markets overall. They want a Chinese block and a Western block. And I feel like that is the battle that's playing out in front of our eyes, which is Binance and potentially Coinbase and a few others on the Western side. But, you know, if you're a Filipino or you're a Brazilian or whatever, you use Binance. I mean, there's just nobody else to go to. And so they have a huge part of that. I think, and we've seen already with Tether, that even the Chinese have said, oh, people were using Tether for money laundering. Everybody knows that capital flight in China leads to money coming out. And I think they've been using hedge funds as well, something I don't really want to talk about, but I think that some of the largest hedge funds have been involved in that too. And I think Binance is involved in that. I think it's a way of taking money out of the Chinese system for the leadership and others, and also having control of the digital economy as it develops. And I think they know that. So whether it goes bust or not, different, because we don't know who that backer is. If it's a sovereign state, it probably won't go bust. But you're giving your money to a sovereign state. Sure, I've got a Binance account. I can trade, just take my tokens off. It's all over and done with in 5 minutes. 5-minute exposure. It's inexcusable. Use them for trading, like an exchange. So you can go there, trade, do what you want, use any counterpart you want, and then take it off. You know, by the next bull run, just by the magnitude of the adoption curve, right, you've got another 600 million people to come. You've got to educate them all over again. And humans being humans will make the same mistake every cycle. I've been in this since 2013. Yeah. Every time an exchange goes bust at the bottom of the cycle, and everyone learns the same lesson all over again because they're all new participants.
Raoul thinks that previous mistakes should have taught investors to self-custody, and that there's no excuse to leave your assets on exchanges when you can simply learn how to plug in a ledger. But with so much fear still in the market, the question every investor has at the moment is, how much damage has the collapse of FTX done to the market long-term? Is it still safe to invest in such chaos?
So actually, the regulation is a good thing. I know a lot of people in this space don't like regulation, but you can't have it both ways. You cannot want to exist on-ramping and off-ramping from a fiat world and not have regulation. It's as simple as that. And so when that comes, which it will, it's just a matter of who wins the fight between the CEC and the CFTC. There will be an answer, and that will give everybody comfort in the space to get in. So I don't think it changes the adoption curve. It's no different than Mt. Gox going, which was actually bigger because it was a bigger part of the market. It would be like the equivalent of FTX and Binance going under at the same time. Now, that may be happening if Mike's right.
Maybe Coinbase. Maybe Coinbase,
right? It was everything. Right? I was lucky. I was with ItBit, which Chad Cascarilla, who founded Paxos, had started. And I was out of the whole thing, luckily. But, you know, we saw it with Bitfinex as well. They were huge when they went, you know, insolvent. So we've seen it a number of times before. It doesn't stop the space. It's usually just when the tide goes out, and that's usually when monetary liquidity is withdrawing from the system, you see who's swimming naked. And it's always, listen, it's a really simple thing, Scott. You do not ever build a business of leverage on an asset or of a collateral that is 100% volatility, because it will, probabilistically speaking, force you into insolvency, guaranteed. Idiots think every time, you know what we need to do is build leverage on 100 volatile asset and then wonder why they blow up and go, really, guys? It's pretty obvious. So anyway, that's my learnings, that regulation will A, stop the leverage, in certain ways, or reduce the leverage for in line with the underlying volatility, and sort out properly client segregation of funds. I mean, I was also caught up at MF Global, which was at the time was massive as a futures brokerage. It was bloody John Corzine, my old boss from Goldman Sachs, who was the governor of New Jersey. He stole the customer money to take bets on European government bonds. And he was a fully regulated futures brokerage. I mean, humans do this stuff. Give them anywhere, a cent of money anywhere, and they will abuse it.
With so many investors losing all their money in these companies, more and more people point their finger at regulators for allowing this to continue to happen. Although many crypto fans aren't fond of the idea, Raoul believes regulation to be a positive thing to the space and that it is crucial for investors to feel confident, ensuring these crypto scams don't ever happen again. But so far, in the United States, there's been no clarity as to what can be done or not. So, why hasn't the crypto space been regulated yet? Is the SEC and CTFC complicit with this? Here's what Raoul has to say about it.
My view on this is Gensler's the person who's held this up. The CFTC would have done this a while ago. And they regulate exchanges. It's their bloody job. But Gensler's been, I'm sorry, but he should take a lot of blame for this. And I know there's no point pointing fingers at each other, but people like Brian Armstrong has gone to them repeatedly and say, you need to sort this out. And he's like, we will sue you in retrospect and we won't make a ruling on anything. And nobody's going to rule whether it's a fucking security or it's not a security. I mean, it's insanity. And I'm sorry, but he's got the blood on his hands of the people who lost money. And he needs to own some of this because it was his fault. If there's anybody to blame in why people within the US got hurt, why did they go outside and use VPNs to use FTX? Well, because of the regulatory lack of clarity on the ability to do anything in the US itself. Now, at least Europe is a bit clearer. Singapore's great. Dubai's pretty good. Everyone's got Japan's getting their clarity. It's only India really and the US that's a total swamp still trying to figure this out. And that's hurting people.
Right. So I guess the question is that intentional?
You might be able to hang him on the fact that he's been meeting with SBF.
We'll see.
And failed to see it entirely, right?
Despite all the recent events with FTX, the arrest of SBF and all the FUD around Binance, Bitcoin is still holding in the 16K region, while Ethereum is trading around $1,200. Is Raoul still positive and excited about the future of the crypto market?
First, I'm excited about the macro because everybody absolutely hates it. I can see it on your face, Scott. You just can't stand the name Jay Powell anymore. And I love those moments in time, right? Those are the turning points. It's when everything's been distressed, and I've been talking about this a lot. The cyclicality of crypto is driven by the monetary cycle. And then we've got the long-term trend of adoption. And when those two meet are the magic periods in time where the risk reward goes exponential, right? And this is why crypto looks like no other asset. There was a great thing that Bloomberg put up recently, which is over the last 10 years, 7 of the 10 years, Bitcoin's been the best performing asset in the world as a proxy for the whole of crypto space. In the 3 years that it wasn't, it was the worst. And, it's buying the worst when you get this is an incredibly exciting opportunity. And you don't get this kind of risk reward. So I really like it from an investment point of view. I think at a broader level, there's a lot of stuff going on in the background that is really interesting. I think ETH staking is still not realized what that means for the lending industry and be able to build better quality DeFi product with understandable risks, because you've got a benchmark yield for the industry. And I think it's a hugely important thing. People don't know it, but that by the next cycle, by 3 or 4 years time, everyone's going to be familiar with that. How people can start pricing things of ETH yield plus. So then Solana yields trading more expensively. Why? Because there's more risk in the ecosystem, whatever it is, right? I think that's a very big deal. What structured products and stuff that come out of that, that's interesting. I've spent a deepening amount of time into the NFT space and just that nexus of music, art, technologists, finance people, just culture all coming together. I don't think it's barely started. It's a magic moment in time. There's something really interesting going on. And obviously it's spinning out into brands using NFTs, whether it's Porsche, whether it's Nike, whether it's Adidas, whether it's others. What are they doing? How are they building community? Understanding community as a new business model. This is a scalable, massive consumer application that is happening in front of our eyes, and Starbucks is right at the forefront of that, as are many other brands. Ticketmaster, and then this one in a lot. Ticketmaster has issued 10 million NFTs. Nobody would have thought they would be the leader. They are, right? So there's a lot going on in building out that kind of social graph, and I think that's important for the layer of all of that money that went into VC. People think it's been nuked. It's not. Everyone's busy building stuff, right? And that stuff is being built on generally the consumer layer or the deep tech layer. Those two layers are very interesting. And Lex will know more about the deep tech layer, but the consumer layer, that's where the next breakthrough comes through, when we stop caring what bloody chain something's actually on, because we just want the digital asset or utility that we've got. And everything becomes a lot smoother, and all of that's extracted away. Digital ID is another big one that I'm very excited about that has to come. It's kind of urgent ahead of the US election with the amount of AI stuff. And then final one for me is I'm actually excited about regulation, because I'm a masochist, but we kind of need it. Right now, it kind of is the wrong moment unless you're brave. So the brave people will do it now. But really, once price turns up, they're all pile in, and that whatever it was at peak at the last bull market, 3 trillion, will be minuscule compared to the peak at the next, because of the sheer amount of capital that comes into this space. Talking about Bitcoin miners, I've been speaking to some of the biggest Middle Eastern economies. I mean, they get this. They're building, thinking about the gas flare-offs and what they can do with mining Bitcoin. They're thinking how they can hold it as part of their sovereign wealth fund in a much more meaningful way. It's all coming. People are just very impatient. They expect it to come tomorrow. And, we've got to go through this despair, loathing phase that, Scott, you're going through, as I can tell, before you go back to the optimism phase, and we can forget all about this and start counting every 1,000 as it goes up and putting laser eyes on the screen again.
For more experienced investors, these low prices represent a huge opportunity to buy some more Bitcoin in anticipation of the next bull market, and that is also the case for Raoul. What do you think of Raoul's take on the FTX collapse and the current market conditions? Are you buying the dip? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. This is Let's Talk Crypto, and we'll see you in the next video.